Explorers? Welcome back to our channel. We're the Choose here from Choose to Explore, where we teach you guys how to see the world
and save $1.
So we just came back from an amazing 6-day trip in none other than the motherland in South Africa. And during our trip, we ended up spending 3 days in Cape Town and 3 days in Joburg.
So while this was an amazing trip, there were quite a few things that we wish we knew before we went. So in this video, we're going to give you all the details that you should know before you go, including things like the best time to visit, how to get around, how to stay safe, where to stay, what to eat, how to not blow your budget and save money, all the top things. And if that sounds helpful to you, go ahead and hit subscribe because we share budget travel tips every single week to help you also see the world save $1. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to cover is the location.
So South Africa is exactly where it sounds. It's in the southern point of Africa. And on the maps, Africa looks huge, but I didn't realize just how far away it is. From New York, a direct flight is about 16 hours. And I don't know if I would say I was ready for that. But one thing that we did in this trip that helped us save money, save time, and visit a new destination is to actually fly with Virgin Atlantic. So using points and miles, we were able to fly to South Africa from New York for 13,500 points and only $176 per person. And it allowed us to have about a 12-hour stopover in London. And I've been in London 2 times, but Liv actually has never been. So it was our first time seeing it. And it was a great way to break up that long segment to South Africa.
If you're interested in learning how to travel on points, we have an entire article written on choosetoexplore.com all about how do credit card points work for travel.
So most people who have a shorter time frame in South Africa are going to visit the 2 major cities, Johannesburg, which is the biggest city in South Africa, and Cape Town. And we'll get into both of those a little bit later on in this video, so stay tuned for that.
So now we're getting into entry requirements for U.S. citizens. So when we visited, we just needed to have a valid passport, and that was really it. There were no forms or anything that we had to fill out.
So South Africa was the easiest place that I visited on the continent because there was no visa requirements and no additional paperwork. We literally got off the plane, went through customs, went and had an amazing time.
So now we're going to go over the best time to visit. So the first thing you need to keep in mind is that the seasons are actually reversed in South Africa compared to the United States. So their summer is actually going to be our winter, and our winter is their summer.
So we'll really break this down into 2 major seasons. It's going to be the high season and the low season. So the high season is actually their summer, and it's actually when we visited. And this is where it's going to be its warmest temperature.
Think on average about 88 degrees Fahrenheit.
So you're going to have the warm temperature, you're going to have the long days, you're going to have a lot of people, you're going to have big crowds, but you're going to have an amazing experience. That's what I really want to harp on, an amazing experience.
So now their low season is actually their cooler months, which is from June to August, and the temps are around 66 degrees Fahrenheit on average.
So during this time, you're going to have cooler temperatures, smaller crowds, cheaper prices, but it's also their dry season, so you can expect less chances of rain. Now with less chances of rain, this may actually be a better time to visit if you plan to go to a safari, but we're going to touch more on safaris later on in this video, so stay tuned for that. Next thing that we're going to talk about is food in South Africa. This was one thing that I was super excited to eat and try during our time in South Africa. One thing that I did notice is that a lot of the cuisine here in South Africa is really international based. I asked a lot of people who are from South Africa and expats who are living in South Africa for South African cuisine, and a lot of people couldn't really give me real recommendations. But I would say that a lot of food in South Africa was really affordable, which I do like. Also, South African cuisine is typically very meat-based and meat-friendly. Think a lot of barbecues and grilling.
Although they do have vegetarian options as well.
Some things that I do recommend trying is the biltong. Think a flaky crust patty with beef in the inside. Pause. But the biltong doesn't always have to be beef. It could be other kinds of meat. It could be ostrich, chicken, lamb, other different kinds of things.
Another popular South African dish to try is the bunny chow, which is a kind of a hollowed out bread with curry inside. And usually that curry is chicken or lamb, but you can also get a bean-filled vegetarian option as well.
And typically in our experience in South Africa, even sit-down restaurants, a lot of our meals were under $10 a person.
Now for our top recommendations of where to eat in South Africa, just check out our Explore South Africa travel guide, which is linked right here in the description below, and you can find it on choosetoexplore.com. So now we're going to go over how are you going to get around South Africa.
In South Africa, there are multiple forms of transportation, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to touch on 3 types. Public transportation is the first one. In Cape Town and Johannesburg, there is public transportation. It is well connected throughout the city. It is also very affordable. Also, another thing that is really good about South Africa transportation is that Uber is widely accessible and affordable as well. Honestly, based on the affordability and the ease of use as well as the safety, if you don't plan to drive in South Africa, I would highly recommend to take Ubers around the city. During our time, we saw Ubers somewhere between $2 and $10, so really affordable, especially if you're coming from New York City.
But our favorite mode of transportation in this case was renting a car.
Now, if you really want to see South Africa, the best way that you're going to do so is with your own vehicle. This will definitely save you money on tours and will give you additional freedom and flexibility for you to explore at your own pace.
Yes, for sure, because a lot of the expenses with tours have to do with them providing transportation for you.
Now, one thing to note that is different about driving in South Africa versus in the United States is they drive on the opposite side of the road and they sit on the opposite side. So being that I'm Jamaican, this is not the first time that I've ever driven on the opposite side, but it is important to know, stay on the left side. At first it may feel weird and uncomfortable, but after a few hours, it just feels like normal. I actually got so used to it that when I got back home and started driving in the United States, I kept on turning on my blinker when I was trying to turn on my windshield wipers, because in South Africa, it's actually on the opposite sides as well. Another thing that I was extremely grateful for in driving in South Africa is that the roads were really good.
They were really smooth, well paved, and easy to navigate.
And we got super cheap car rentals in Johannesburg and Cape Town. I believe in Joburg it was like $15 a day. I don't remember exactly what it was in Cape Town, but it was really affordable. Under $100 for the 3 days.
So now we're going to get into where to stay in South Africa. So if you're talking about Cape Town, the Cape Town City Center is a very central location for you to stay.
Being in the city center, a lot of the attractions are going to be right there, and you can even walk to them. This will be perfect if you don't plan to rent a car, because you can actually walk to a lot of the tourist attractions and destinations there.
Now, because we actually rented a car, we ended up staying a little bit outside of the city center, and we were able to save money on our accommodations this way, as well as still have incredible views in waterfront stays.
Without the hustle and bustle of being there in high season in Cape Town. Now, Johannesburg is the biggest city in South Africa, both by population size as well as its area. And that being said, a lot of things in Johannesburg are spread out. In Cape Town, being in the city center, you could really get away with walking to a lot of places and taking Ubers, but in Johannesburg, you're definitely going to be moving around a lot more.
But there are a few areas that we'd recommend that you stay in Joburg.
This is going to be Sandton, Melrose Arch, as well as Rosebank.
And these are very popular among tourists. Now, when it comes to finding a place to stay in South Africa, we're always looking for the best deals, and one of the easiest ways to do that is with Plannin.
During our trip, Plannin saved us a good amount of money, giving us exclusive discounts through their platform.
So Plannin has a wide variety of stays, from hotels to local accommodations. So you can actually sign up for a free membership that gives you discounts on stays worldwide, including in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and beyond. Whether you're looking for a city stay or something by the coast, Plannin makes it really easy to save. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to check it out and start saving on your next trip. If you're getting anything valuable or helpful from this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is diversity in South Africa. Now, this is an interesting topic to talk about, especially with South Africa's infamous history with apartheid. Now, Cape Town is a thriving city with amazing views. We saw people of all walks of life.
But we did notice that a lot of the areas had big disparities in wealth.
A lot of this is rooted in its history, but we saw a lot of areas that were separated based on religion, race, and background. A lot of the big tourist areas, I would say that there is a bigger portion of white South Africans. And we saw a lot of really cool areas such as Bokap, which is historically the Muslim area of the city. Still to this day, over 90% of the people that live in this area are of Muslim background. And we saw some really cool artwork, beautiful colored buildings, and so many people in support for Palestine. And this diversity and this history you could really see in a lot of the attractions, especially if you're in Johannesburg.
And this actually made sense to us because as a country with formerly oppressed people, it would make sense that they would want to help other oppressed people around the world.
Now, when we talk about Johannesburg, it's really different. I felt like Joburg was really local living. There are a lot more people, and I felt like pretty much everybody was Black African. Coming from Cape Town, I was like, where are the white people at? But if you do want to learn about a lot of the history of South Africa and apartheid, a really cool exhibit that we went to was the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg. Here we learned about the people who lived in South Africa prior to European colonization, then through European rule, apartheid, independence, and now post-apartheid rule.
Alright, so now we're going to get into the fun part. What are the top things to do around South Africa?
So Cape Town was recently voted the best city in the world. And it's so easy to see why, because there are so many things to do and see. For me personally, between Rio and Cape Town, I'm not sure, but these are the best sunrises and sunsets that I've ever seen. It also has the mountains, it has beaches, it has so much natural beauty.
Now, we've been to so many observation decks around the world, but going to Table Mountain and going all the way to the top on that cable car and being able to explore and see all the views of South Africa, that was incredible and definitely a must-do.
Table Mountain was recently voted one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, and for good reason. I honestly thought it was going to be a tourist trap, but being up there and being above the clouds and looking out and seeing the water and seeing the whole Cape Peninsula was amazing.
Yes, definitely my favorite view I've ever seen. No exaggeration.
And even from up there in Table Mountain, it's amazing because you could even see Robben Island, which is another thing to do in South Africa. Robben Island is a former prison that Nelson Mandela was actually held during his time in prison. It's a tour that you can do, and it actually leads from another thing to do, which is the V&A waterfront.
Now, the V&A waterfront has lots of shops, lots of restaurants, and it's right there on the water, so everything's very beautiful, very modern.
And we can't forget about the beautiful beaches in Cape Town, where you could see wildlife, see granite structures. We saw the penguins in the morning. It was amazing. We went down, we saw wild ostriches, we saw baboons. We saw so much in Cape Town. It's an amazing place to visit. Now, if you're talking about Johannesburg, this is going to be more of a central region of South Africa, so think less coastal vibes. But this is going to be an amazing place for a lot of the history and the culture. One thing that we'd recommend to do is to visit Soweto, which is actually the largest black township in Johannesburg.
So on this street is actually the only street that has the houses of 2 Nobel Peace Prize winners.
Nelson Mandela's house was actually transformed into a museum, so it's definitely cool to see and explore.
And then there's also Desmond Tutu's house, which actually you can't visit, but you can drive by it because his family still lives there.
Also, Johannesburg, being central, is going to be closer to a lot of the most amazing safaris in the world, which we'll talk about later. But to see our full experience in Johannesburg, you actually check out our full video that's linked in the description below. So the good thing about wildlife in South Africa is it is plentiful.
So whether you're staying in Joburg or Cape Town, you'll have opportunities to see great safaris around those cities.
The reason why South Africa is world-renowned for some of the best safaris in the world is you could actually see the big 5 of African safaris. Let us know down below if you've seen the Big 5 or if you know what the Big 5 is.
Okay, we'll tell you. So it's the elephants, leopards, lions, rhino, as well as the buffalo.
But we saw so much more than just the Big 5.
So now let's get into the best time to experience a safari.
So if you want to make sure that you see animals, the best time you should go is actually during their dry season. And as we said in the beginning, the dry season is going to be their winter months, which is going to be around June to August. So during this time, there's not a lot of greenery and rainfall, so the main place where a lot of animals congregate is going to be at the waterholes.
So you know exactly where to go to find the animals. But that's definitely not to say that you won't see animals on your safari at any other time during the year, because we actually went during the rainy season and still got to see so many animals. So it's the luck of the draw.
I've been to a handful of safaris around the continent, in Botswana, Senegal, Kenya, and let me tell you, my experience in South Africa was the best experience I've had.
It was actually my first safari, so I think I must be the good luck charm.
But as soon as we entered the park, we were amazed by the beautiful, lush, rolling hills. It's the only safari I've ever been to that had rolling hills and mountains. Also, within 5 minutes of being in the park, we saw a lion grab a wildebeest, chew it, eat it, and then go drink a water. This was action-packed and amazing.
Crazy. So let's talk about all things money in South Africa. The first thing you need to know is that their currency is actually the South African rands.
One thing that was really amazing for us being iPhone users is the new feature in the new iOS update. The new update in the calculator really made it easy for us to convert USD to ZAR so we could easily have a better idea of what things cost. Also, when we first entered the country, we took out a good amount of cash because in my experience, a lot of African countries are very cash dependent. Now, South Africa was really card dependent. I would say a lot of places that we went to said card only, cashless. So we actually left South Africa with a good amount of cash that we weren't able to use. As you can see behind us, having cash from other countries is not really a problem. But we were lucky that the next country we visited, which is Namibia, actually accepted the ZAR or the South African rand.
And since it is so card-based in South Africa, you do want to make sure that you are traveling with a credit card that doesn't have foreign transaction fees. And if you're wondering what credit cards are good for travel, check out this blog post that's on choosetoexplore.com to help you out.
Also, another thing that is expected in South Africa is bargaining and negotiating.
So at some of the markets that you visit, you can expect to be upcharged as a tourist.
But in their culture, bargaining and negotiating is definitely expected. In our experience, a lot of the markets are where we used our cash. Next thing that we're going to talk about may make or break your time in South Africa, and that's going to be load shedding. Now, the first time that we ever experienced load shedding is going to be our time in Cuba. Now, this is a time where the electrical grid needs a break as well, so it just shuts off. Now, this could be minutes, hours, and in some occasions, maybe even days. But if you are staying in a larger hotel, they typically tend to have backup generators to accommodate this.
So now we're going to get into one of the most important points, and that has to do with safety in South Africa.
So like any major city, you should remain vigilant when you're traveling.
This means keeping your valuables at home or just not in sight.
Avoid walking home at night by yourself, and sticking to reputable transportation.
Such as using Uber.
But you can never expect the unexpected, and that's why we travel with Safety Wing Travel Medical Insurance. I love Safety Wing for how affordable it is. Because we're under 39 years of age, you can typically get a policy for under $2 a day for your length of travel. And also it covers so much, from delayed flights, lost baggage, and if you do have medical emergencies.
It's something we definitely wouldn't leave home without. So if you're interested in a policy, just check out the link below in the description. Another thing that was reassuring for us while we were in South Africa was that there were actually parking attendants at the different parking lots as well as the street parking that really gave us good advice on where to park, not parking too far away from them, out of sight, and just keeping our car in a safe space.
This would have been great to have in Mexico City, where our car actually got broken into, and they didn't take anything because we don't leave anything in a rental car, but it would have saved us a lot of headache from the rental car company.
Yes, so these parking attendants were kind of like security guards as well.
And this feeds into our next point, which is tipping culture in South Africa. So in South Africa, there are a lot of very low-wage jobs, and a lot of people, they work for tips. And that's to say that their culture, tipping is expected. Now, it's not the typical 18 to 20% that we pay in the United States, but it's somewhere between, I'd say, like 10 and 15%. Especially those parking attendants that we were just talking about. This is where a lot of the cash that I did have left over went to. Next thing that we're going to talk about is staying connected during your time in South Africa. So one way that we avoid high data roaming charges when we travel is using a travel eSIM. This allows us to connect our phones and use the data that is on the local towers when we travel. It's also significantly cheaper than just connecting my US phone and paying $10, $15 a day. Plus, you're going to have a better connection. Now, our preferred eSIM is going to be HolaFly, and that's because you could get unlimited data around the world at a really affordable rate. And this is not just limited to South Africa, it's in many countries around the world. If you are interested, you can see that linked in our description below. So there you guys have it. Those are our top tips to know before you go to South Africa. Did any of these surprise you? Let us know in the comments below. So thank you so much for checking out our channel. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we truly appreciate you, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you're sitting here rocking with us. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Choose out.